It's not the Mexicans or South Americans who's facing the brunt of Trump's new immigration crackdown, it's the Africans. Entire nations were blacklisted overnight, with their citizens barred from setting foot on American soil. That's exactly what's happening right now. The US has launched a shocking new immigration crackdown targeting several African countries, banning their citizens from entry. But why? Who made the list? And what does this mean for millions of Africans who once saw America as a land of opportunity? The answers may leave you stunned. Before we begin, we want to thank you for supporting us and being part of our strong community. If you're not yet a member, we encourage you to subscribe to this channel and help us grow together. Let's dive in. With Donald Trump returning to the White House in 2025, the US is experiencing one of the most aggressive immigration crackdowns in modern history. His administration has implemented sweeping visa bans, mass deportations, and extreme border controls, disproportionately affecting immigrants from around the world. African immigrants are facing particularly harsh treatment, with many being forcibly deported. The rhetoric behind Trump's immigration policies focuses on national security, illegal migration, and visa overstays. As of February 10, 2025, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement data shows that over 1.45 million non-citizens have been identified for deportation, a significant portion of whom are African nationals. Countries such as Somalia, Nigeria, Mauritania, Ghana, Cameroon, and Ethiopia are facing mass removals under these measures. While Trump claims these policies protect American jobs and security, the reality is starkly different. Many deported individuals have lived in the U.S. for decades, built families, and made significant contributions to society. Diplomatic tensions are rising as African nations push back, demanding fairer treatment for their citizens. They warn that these deportations will destabilize their economies and families. However, the Trump administration remains firm, threatening economic sanctions on countries that refuse to accept deported nationals. But which African nations are being targeted the most? Let's break it down. Somalia faces the highest number of deportations, with 4,090 individuals identified for removal. Security concerns and ongoing insurgency have led the U.S. to classify Somalia as a high-risk country. The reinstatement of the 2025 Muslim ban has made it nearly impossible for Somali nationals to obtain visas for work, study, or family reunification. Somali immigrants in Minnesota, home to one of the largest Somali diasporas in the U.S., have expressed outrage. Many deportees arrived as children, built families, and integrated into American society, but are now being detained and forced onto deportation flights. Despite clear evidence that deported individuals face risks of persecution, violence, and even death, the Trump administration has shown no signs of reconsideration. The Somali government has appealed for U.S. compassion, but Washington remains unmoved. Mauritania is another major target, with 3,822 nationals identified for deportation. The Black Mauritanian community, historically marginalized and subjected to slavery, faces severe risks upon return, including the possibility of re-enslavement or statelessness. Despite warnings from human rights organizations, the Trump administration continues to deport Mauritanians without offering asylum or protection. Many Mauritanians had been living under temporary protected status, TPS, which shielded them from deportation. With the program now revoked, thousands are at risk of immediate removal. Despite being one of America's strongest African allies, Nigeria has seen 3,690 nationals targeted for deportation. The administration claims that Nigerian immigrants overstay their visas at higher rates. This narrative ignores the significant contributions Nigerians make to the U.S. economy, particularly in medicine, engineering, and finance. Nigerian officials have warned that deportations will damage bilateral relations and destabilize families. However, Trump has threatened economic penalties for non-compliance. Ghana, a longtime diplomatic partner of the U.S., is now facing crackdowns, with 258 nationals set for deportation. Ghanaian immigrants are major contributors to the U.S. workforce, particularly in healthcare and IT. Deportations will strain Ghana's economy and social systems, especially since many deportees have lived undocumented in the U.S. for decades. Cameroon, engulfed in one of Africa's most violent conflicts, has seen 1,736 of its nationals identified for deportation. Despite the ongoing war, ethnic violence, and state-sponsored persecution, the Trump administration continues to refuse asylum protections for Cameroonian refugees. Many deportees face arrest, interrogation, and torture by government forces, who often view returnees as traitors or rebel sympathizers. Others become targets for separatist militias, who retaliate against civilians accused of cooperating with the central government. Despite warnings from the United Nations and human rights organizations, the Trump administration remains indifferent. Egypt, a key U.S. ally in military and economic affairs, faces one of the harshest deportation waves, with 1,461 nationals identified for removal. Many Egyptian immigrants targeted for deportation have lived in the U.S. for decades, building families and businesses. Among them are political dissidents who fled persecution and sought protection in America. Human rights organizations have raised concerns that deportations could lead to wrongful arrests or worse, but the administration remains unmoved. Despite Sudan's fragile political transition and ongoing economic instability, 1,200 Sudanese nationals are facing deportation. Sudanese immigrants, many of whom applied for asylum to escape political repression and hardship, are now being treated as deportation priorities. With legal protections stripped away, deportees face uncertain futures in a country still grappling with instability. Ethiopians, who have long established a strong presence in the U.S., contributing to fields like medicine, engineering, and academia, are facing mass deportations. The move has shocked Ethiopian-American communities, who argue that the deportations are politically motivated and lack legitimate security concerns. Despite Ethiopia's ongoing ethnic conflicts and economic instability, Trump's administration has shown no consideration for these realities. Ethiopia's government has expressed frustration, warning that these deportations will strain resources as returnees face challenges reintegrating. Eritrea, widely known for its authoritarian regime and human rights abuses, is another nation heavily impacted by Trump's immigration policies. Despite clear evidence that deported Eritreans face persecution, indefinite military conscription, and a lack of political freedoms, many are being forcibly sent back. Reports indicate that some returnees have already been detained upon arrival, raising concerns about the U.S. knowingly placing people in harm's way. If you think this crisis affects only Africa, think again. These aggressive deportation policies have significant consequences for the U.S. itself. African immigrants are among the most highly educated and economically productive groups in the U.S., with a higher percentage of college graduates than the general population. Many work in critical sectors such as healthcare, technology, engineering, and finance. The deportation of thousands of doctors, nurses, and medical professionals will likely strain the healthcare system, leading to longer wait times, reduced services, and declining care quality in underserved communities. The technology and engineering sectors will also suffer, as African immigrants play a vital role in maintaining America's global competitiveness. African immigrants have built successful businesses across various industries, from retail and restaurants to logistics and tech startups. These enterprises provide jobs and stimulate local economies. With deportations stripping communities of their entrepreneurs, many businesses are expected to shut down, leading to lost revenue and unemployment. Many African nations, which maintain strong trade and security partnerships with the US, are pushing back against these deportations. Countries like Nigeria, Ghana, and Egypt are voicing concerns over the treatment of their citizens. The perception that the US is unfairly targeting African nations is straining diplomatic ties and pushing these countries to seek new alliances. China and Russia, already expanding their influence across Africa, are likely to capitalize on this situation by offering trade deals, infrastructure investments, and diplomatic support, without the hostility displayed by Trump's administration. Will African nations stand united against these deportations, or will US economic pressure force them into compliance? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. If you want to watch more videos on Black culture, history, and civilization, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay tuned.